Welcome to the Digital Marketing Podcast, brought to you by targetinternet.com. Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we have a digital marketing trends and AI update for you.
Okay, so people probably won't be aware of this, but this is, in fact, the 400th episode of the Digital Marketing Podcast, which is quite mind-boggling that we've been doing this. When did we start? What year was it?
Well, we only do one a year. That makes us both 400 and... Yeah.
I think it was 2011, right?
Yeah.
If it helps, that means when you started the podcast, I was 11.
It doesn't help at all. It does quite the opposite, as you well know.
Oh,
so
I just feel so old now.
Well, that's
so
all right.
old.
That's all right. Lots of things to talk about.
I'm going to go for a little lay down and a nap now. It's exhausted me, this conversation already. Yeah.
Well, bearing in mind, we used to do like one a month and then it's one a week now.
Yeah.
It's shifted. But anyway, some interesting things to talk about. So it's felt at a very, very, very good time because I've got a big announcement about Target Internet. And then I have just come back from Inbound 2024 in Boston, which I go to every year. And there are so many announcements and so much news to kind of talk about that it's going to be really important. We kind of give a bit of an update on all of those things. So let's just start with that announcement first. So as you know, targetinternet.com is our learning platform for everything digital marketing. But we do this other thing where we do these half-day masterclasses every month. And it was like a kind of paid for edition thing. And we have decided, because they go so well and people love them and having that face-to-face interaction is such a nice thing. If you are now a 6 monthly or 12 monthly member of Target Internet, or if you've been a monthly member for 6 months, you now get those included every month. So every month there'll be at least one half-day masterclass, different times of the day for different time zones. So you can find the one that suits you. And essentially, you get a half day of interaction every month of doing these kind of live courses and live updates.
So what you're saying is I get access to hundreds of top quality on-demand training courses and I get a live face-to-face session every single month, all for the same small monthly fee.
Yes, that didn't sound like advertising at all, Kieran. That was amazing.
Really natural.
That is incredible.
That was very natural. Well done. Yeah. You could get a job in this. I should say, before we started the podcast, we said this is the 400th episode, and Kieran started it and promptly used completely the wrong title. So this isn't the 400th episode. This is probably about the 600th. And it's always the bit at the beginning that goes wrong.
It's the hardest part. That's why I have to do it, Daniel.
It is. That's very true.
Cope. You wouldn't cope with. Honestly, the pressure, unbelievable.
We wouldn't have that level of enthusiasm required. I think that's the thing. Although that last recording did start with you yawning, which we would have had to edit out anyway.
Did I yawn? It's because I was waiting. No, we won't go there. But yes,
let's move on.
Yeah,
okay, so Inbound 24, great conference. It's HubSpot's conference and great speakers. So Neil Patel's always there. Jay Swedelson from the Do This, Not That podcast, and so on. So loads of great people. Ryan Reynolds was the keynote. Interestingly.
No,
he was. So that was very cool. But there's some stuff I think that's really, really key. And I want to start with the Neil Patel stuff because as ever, Neil came out with a load of really interesting stats. And his general thing, and there was a bit of doom and gloom because the keynote at the start of the conference was a bit like this as well. So the CEO of HubSpot comes out and says we're getting less traffic, less conversions, poorer retention. That's what everyone's experiencing.
Yay!
That's a positive way to
Let's
start.
throw a party.
Yeah, that's very positive. So we then like, okay, so what do we do? And their angle was, look, we've got all these AI tools. We've got this new Copilot thing built into HubSpot that's going to help you streamline things, automate things, and then we can take things to the next stage. So we'll discuss that a bit more and how much we believe that in terms of what a great thing AI content is at the moment. But Neil Patel came out and said, look, we've analysed tens of thousands of social media posts, and it was amazing. He said 59.4% of them had zero engagement. Now, our last episode was saying, is social media worth the effort? And what I was kind of looking at...
Not to add fuel to my fire, but I love that. Thanks, Neil.
I thought you'd like that. Now, what was interesting is that there was some really insightful talks about, look, if you look at how much time people are spending on social media, they're still there for hours every day. This is where they are consuming media, but we're just doing it wrong. and actually, if you want to get engagement, I'm going to try and talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But that's a real eye opener. 60% of stuff does not get any engagement. Complete waste of time. Now,
it's worse than that, because the stuff that is getting engagement is getting it from fake accounts potentially.
Quite possible as well.
So that's watering it down even further.
Well, it was interesting because he did a thing about how people are creating content, and there was three columns. One is written by humans, one was written by AI, and one was AI assisted humans. And what was interesting, sadly, was that the AI column was by far the highest. Wow. The AI assisted by humans was pretty small, which I thought was really desperately bad, because that's going to trigger all the negative stuff from Google. But what they showed in another chart he had was that how much engagement and traffic basically this content was getting on the website from an SEO perspective. And the human written stuff generally was getting, at the beginning, slightly more engagement. But what was really clear is as it went over 5 months, the human written content was ramping up in terms of the amount of traffic it was driving, and the AI stuff was going down.
So just hang on a second, let me understand this. When you say as it was going over 5 months, what do you mean?
So like month by month. So month one, the stuff that was written by humans did slightly better than the AI stuff.
Right.
Month two, the human stuff got more traffic. The AI stuff went down slightly.
Is this for one particular organisation or just across the board?
A whole range of organisations.
Okay.
So, and it was thousands of data points. It was a pretty good study. And what it kind of shows, I think, is that Google is getting better and better at working out what good quality content with all that EAT stuff, the experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust built into it is. So actually, you might get some initial results, because I've seen a million Twitter accounts go, look, I've automated all my content on my website and I've driven this much traffic, but it's not playing out in the long term, which is, as every single SEO strategy that you're using just to get SEO and tends to happen, it's not giving the long-term benefit. Now, I spoke to a couple of people from Google while I was there, and they're really, really happy for people to be using AI tools to generate content, but you have to add all that other good stuff in there to make it unique and make it really stand alone and so on as well. Now, I'm going to come to, at this point while we're here, because I was going to come to it later when I talk about Google, my favorite stat from the entirety of Inbound. And bear in mind, 3 days, intensive talks. I was there from very early in the morning to the late night kind of sessions as well. I'd planned out on the app, running between all these different stages. So I got an awful lot of talks. I was in 2 places at once, multiple times by accident. And
you were like Hermione Granger with a time turner.
It was very good, right? Yeah. And essentially, I like being compared to Hermione Granger. That's quite good. Yeah. That's never happened to me before. Oh. Thanks for that, Kieran. It's going to stick with me now. And now someone's going to use an AI tool to come up with an image as well.
Daniel Rouse, the digital Hermione Granger.
Wow, that's incredible. So I've totally lost my thread now. Right, anyway, the best stat of all those talks was one from Google. And I heard they must have kind of leaked this somewhere else before, because someone else had mentioned it to me briefly. And they basically came out and went, 15% of all the searches that are done in Google every single month have never been searched before.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you knew this. Okay. Well, that was a huge build-up for you to go, whatever.
Oh, no, sorry. It was a real standout stat for me when I visited Google about 5 weeks ago.
There you go.
I spoke for Google. It was very fun.
Check you out. What are you speaking about?
I was talking about using the latest data and extensions on AdWords.
Very nice.
And
did you tell them it was called AdWords again? I mean, this is.
Don't know. I didn't. I avoided probably. If anyone was
for those
in the
not
audience,
kind of catching on to this, it hasn't been called AdWords in a decade.
Google Ads. Google Ads. Everybody knows even Google knew what I was talking about. Yeah, I was their guest, so they couldn't say, "Oh, actually, could you correct yourself?" They're probably thinking it.
One of my greatest moments on stage with Google was that I went on stage and it was a panel discussion.
Yeah,
and they said, "Daniel Rose, I'm going to come to you first. Is growth hacking a thing?" And I went, it's just another one of those phrases where they've made up, and it's just pinging search and social media and a few different things together. And then they go to the person sitting next to me and say, Mr. Smith, or whatever his name was, head of growth hacking at Google. Oh, that was a bit embarrassing. Yeah. So, anyway. Oops. I probably told that story before because you knew that story. So, anyway, that's okay.
I haven't heard that one.
No? All right.
No.
That's all right.
No, but do you know what? Everyone at Google's so gracious, it would have been cool.
Yeah.
This is in my experience.
I don't know. He did
Did
look
he?
profoundly upset.
So
anyway,
what on earth are you saying, man?
I wonder if that's his job title. I'm going to check. But anyway,
Yeah.
so this 15% of all searches are new, I think is fascinating, because what that tells me is that there is a huge opportunity still within search optimization all the time. Because I mean, a lot of this will be new TV shows, it will be new music artists, all that kind of stuff.
It's testimony to how in the moment Google is in our lives, though, isn't it? Like, how often do we turn to Google when we have a need? And those needs are constantly changing. Like, look at what's going on in the news in any week.
Yeah,
and that's going to massively influence the concepts and keyword landscapes that people are going to start bringing together in their searches. And I think, you start taking a look at that, and actually it's not too hard to start brainstorming where the potential next niches are, right?
So I had to think about this. I'm going to talk in a minute about iOS 18. Okay, new update to the Apple operating system. Do you know what there's going to be after that? There'll be
iOS 19.
20. So the reality is you can start creating pages of content about topics and say, these are the rumors at the moment about iOS 19. This is what we're expecting from it. And then you'll be in a really good place to go through, look at a TV show, look at a film that's going to come out next year. There's a lot of stuff that you can start looking at and going, I think that could be a big thing, and starting to try and work on that. So I thought that was my standout stat, which Kieran already knew. But there you go. So I'll come back to Google in just a moment. But the thing that came out for me a lot was that everyone was saying social's getting harder. We've spoken about this a ton. Still an opportunity. LinkedIn had a huge presence, and I've got some really interesting stuff about their ads to speak about in a bit. But there was a couple of things that really stood out to me. A couple of people said it. Jay Swedelson, who runs subjectline.com, does the Guru email conference, and is going to be coming on the podcast very soon as well. Biggest marketing podcast in the US. And we met up at the show. And he's always been really a big advocate, as you have, Kieran, about email still being a huge opportunity. Also met the lovely people from Marketing Millennials, and they focus their business really on having an email list and having an event that they're running. So there's this refocus. And one of the things that like a little tactic that came out is that we've got this kind of obsession with taking people from social media to our website. We know that's a problem with the algorithm sometimes. But actually, rather than doing that, putting a whole piece of content into social media that's really useful, and then just saying, sign up to our newsletter for more stuff like this, is actually a really powerful use of social media and email, because what you're doing is taking an audience that you don't control and don't own, and then having that on your email list and being able to do with that. And I think increasingly that's definitely for a B2B audience, that's going to be a no-brainer from LinkedIn and things like that as well. But I do think we need to be thinking about how we own the audience a little bit more as well. So
do you know what I really love about that approach, though, is it would be very measurable, wouldn't it? You're either going to get sign up, so you're not. So I challenge everybody, you know what, guys? Don't say it's necessarily a B2B only thing. Why don't you try it? Right. You could run experiments like that. If the platform allows you to put longer form content in there, why not? It's very clear call to action, isn't it? And actually, do you know what? I think people will be more likely to give you the thing you ask for because you've given them something of great value up front without any requirements at all on it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If you provide a great piece of content, that could be a carousel of information. It can be long form. It could be a video. But if you then say you want more like this, sign up to the email, and you then got the opportunity to keep engaging. And if they're not engaging, you can remove people from your list. That's fine. So keeping that quality of list up is going to be important.
Do you know what else is genius about that? You don't actually have to put the link in there, especially if it's a video. Just say it. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the thing. That's what the algorithms will like start. Oh, they've put a link to something else. We'll downgrade it. We won't show it to as many people because we're greedy. We want to keep everybody on our platform all the time. We don't want to take them off elsewhere. You just direct them to your homepage where they can sign up.
Yeah, or just if you've got a particular link, or you just go search for the marketing download newsletter.
Way better than messing around going, check out our links in LinkedIn bio. No, you don't. That's another step. Just take them straight through to the website. Give me a domain name. Bish bash bosh. Done.
And you only have to look at, say, everything about TikTok being banned in the US to know that it's so unsafe now to rely on one platform. And at least like with your audience and the whole community building and speaking directly to your customers, you've literally got them right in front of you, because anything can change.
it's not looking good with this TikTok thing at the moment, just to update people. So TikTok are arguing a number of points that just don't look like they're going to stand up at the moment. And if TikTok is banned in the US, it's very likely it'll be banned ever because the app stores are US based as well. So it's something to bear in mind if you're kind of going down that road. Now, while we're here at email marketing, probably the most important update for people to consider at the moment, iOS 18 is coming out in the following days, which is the latest update to the Apple operating system for smartphones and tablets. And it has a completely new version of their email client. Now, why this is so important is that 56% of all email clients are Apple Mail. So it is by far the biggest, because people have got it on their iPhones and they're using it on a day-to-day. Even if it's a business account, they've got their Outlook stuff maybe coming into there. It's got a load of AI stuff built into it because that's the way the operating system is going. And there's lots of AI built in there, but it's being built in quite heavily into the email. And they're going to basically, when your emails come in, you've got that thing within Outlook where it's got your primary and kind of like a secondary email box where it tries to stick all your newsletters and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, with this, they are going to have primary, which is your essential time sensitive type stuff. Transactions, which is like order confirmations, shipping confirmations, things like that. Promotions, which is marketing and sales. And updates, which is kind of newsletters and everything else. You do not want to be in transactions or promotions. You want to be in primary, ideally, or updates. Because updates, people go, well, that's the newsletters I like. I'll go and check those sporadically. I'm probably not going to look at the other folders at all. So one of the things that kind of came out, I need to credit Jay Swedelson for this as well, that he was talking about this a lot at the conference, his talk. And you're going to love him when it comes to the podcast because he's an absolute brilliant public speaker and podcaster. But essentially, if you've got an email newsletter going out from your company and it's not from a person, as in it's like from newsletter app, and the tone of voice is very corporate or just, very brand, you are not going to end up getting delivered a lot of time. You're going to end up in promotions and marketing messages. Now, thankfully, our marketing download is written by me and Lou, and it's from my email address. Okay. And the tone of voice is quite conversational. So what we're starting to see is that there's a lot of kind of AI trigger words. So things like registration, confirmed, meeting invite, exclusive invitation, important updates, X days left, new features, subscription details, action required. All of these words, it's okay to include them, but if they're the main focus of an email, you're going to end up in one of those folders, which is kind of okay if you've got an event and you are sending the event confirmation. People are going to actively seek that out, and that's okay. But if your newsletter is of that kind of tone, you're going to find yourself just not getting delivered in the first place. So now is maybe the opportunity to have a think about that.
And encourage replies within your emails as well.
Yeah. Massively.
Because the more people that are replying to you, then obviously the inbox is going to recognize that it's something of importance and people are actually engaging with you. And I'd subscribed to something the other day and I can't remember what it was for, but sometimes you get an email and it's just asking you to confirm your subscription. And rather than clicking a button, they'd actually said, if you actually meant to do this, just reply to us and let us know what your biggest pain point is in marketing or something like that. So straight away you've confirmed that that's actually someone you're going to engage with.
And you've created a signal for the AI to say, oh, that's a proper email. They're replying to each other.
Yeah.
As well. So this iOS 18 piece is going to be important. I think email is going to be increasingly important because social getting harder. Therefore, focusing on this a little bit is going to be huge. So let's carry on. I spoke about Google, the 15% of all searches new. That's great. A couple of things that they have announced, and Kieran, you might know about these kind of things as well. So they've got, there's some new terminology that came out that I hadn't come across. And it's basically within Google Ads now, something called enhanced conversions. And what they've done is separate out something in the settings called Data Manager. And what it's really allowing you to do is connect up more of your first party data, that is stuff you've collected directly through your website, into Google Ads. So essentially, I'll give you an example, is that I can go in, log in there, I can connect it to my CRM system, in this particular case, it's HubSpot in this case. It would import my contacts and it can take certain lists that I've got. So I might have a list of B2B customers, right? Now, those business to business customers, the conversion would have happened offline. they would have come to the website, done something, and then spoken to someone at our end and ended up signing up. I can now use that data to help the AI optimize my ad campaigns within Google Ads. That's a massive step forwards.
So that's what I was invited to Google to talk about.
Well, there you go. So you probably know something about this.
I've been doing this, yeah, right. And it makes a huge difference, especially given we still be preparing for the end of third-party cookies, which is going to make it harder to use online platforms to reach people. But you see, if you start using your own first-party data, that's okay, and that's what they've been able to do. So there are a few hoops you have to jump through to get this all up and running. I was very lucky in that probably about a year ago, the team at Google who specialise in this helped me set up a whole bunch for one of the companies that I work with, and we've been playing around with it ever since. And it's phenomenal, especially when you start mixing it with Performance Max, and you start playing around with things you know about your audience. So we were able to focus more on more valuable customers, for example. How's that going to help your return on ad spend? Well, hugely. And actually, what you can start to do is take your first-party data, and if you've got a broad enough kind of stream of it, that's the key with this. A couple of dozen people at a certain level, that's not going to help you much. It's AI. It still needs a big pipeline of data to sort of make the right decisions on. But if you can use your own first-party data to help direct platforms within Google, like using your Performance Max to the best advantage, it's hugely beneficial. And we've seen, definitely on the accounts where I've done this, I've seen a big improvement in terms of, the cost per lead and the profit that you get back from those leads as well. So you're sort of squeezing that kind of efficiency at both ends. It's very exciting, and it's definitely the way forward. I can see why Google are doing it. In the absence of, huge audience data from third-party cookies, this is the way to go. And that's why, the more you focus on your first-party, I suppose that's why I love email so much as a channel. I can see that it's got the future written all over it, because that's first-party data. You own your email audience. You push out to a whole bunch of people on any social media platform. You have no idea who those people are, really. You certainly can't reach them with in any way through your own platforms and through your own data. You're reliant on the platform giving you that, and they do and will charge you more and more for that as the competition for those audiences gets more and more fierce. We've seen that. It's a marketplace, right? You don't have that with your email data. It's a very, very different thing, and it syncs up beautifully with this, because actually every email you're getting more and more first-party data back from your email audiences, so you can begin to segment around that. And it's a beautiful thing, because it makes it more profitable. But actually, the reason why it makes it all more profitable is because actually it enables you to do more things better for your customers.
More one-to-one targeting.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
So I'm interested. They talk about the Google Ads Power Pair. This was a big thing that kept talking about, which is basically saying it's the search ads and it's the Performance Max, and just looking at how those two things kind of fit together, and going through and making sure that you're using those to the maximum ability. And now everything they say is switch on asset creation, new asset creation, switch on broad match, switch on all these things. What's your experience of that? Because my experience of switching on broad match, I end up cannibalizing a load of my own traffic.
So they advised me to do this, and I was very skeptical. So we ran some nice tests to make sure. And sure enough, I mean, it flies in the face of everything every book about Google Ads says. There you go. I've got it right that time, Daniel.
Nice.
All the books out there will say,
it's only taken 400 episodes.
All the books out there will say, no, don't use broad search. But actually, you're dealing with a completely different beast here, right? Because actually, if you don't use broad search, what you're doing is you're reducing the amount of data that the algorithm has access to. And actually, these campaigns are much more sophisticated now. You generally have return on ad spend targets that you're giving Google, rather than just piling in money on a keyword. Nobody does it like that anymore. That would, that's not gonna cut it. So actually, in my experience, when you focus on the broad search, actually, when we opened that out, we saw that suddenly the algorithm was able to do what we were asking it to do. So it sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah.
There's another development coming very soon, if it's not there already for some people. They do tend to roll these things out gradually, but they're actually enabling within Performance Max, you can actually now add negative keywords to that. And that, I think that'll make people feel a lot better about this. But like everything you've learned in the past, this is the danger with this stuff. Stuff's moving at such a pace now. You know, we have these rough rules of thumb. The rules are changing all the time as well. And you have to reevaluate everything. So, you know, you don't know what you don't know. But I can tell you, I've learned through this. And actually, when we A/B tested it, actually, the segment that we allowed to have broad keyword, it just worked better. Because actually it was able to learn, because it wasn't manually excluding everybody who was using a broad search keyword. And actually it was making decisions for us, as Performance Max does, based on the ROAS we were trying to make. So like, don't clip its wings was my learning, and actually rethink that whole rule of, because for years, I said this on stage, for years, everybody said it was just a tax for stupid people that Google applied to ad accounts, which is a bit harsh, a bit unfair.
I think it's valid though, yeah.
Well, it was back in the day. There was an element of that. If you didn't really know, you know, all the bells and whistles and knobs and twirls that you could twiddle, you know, you could come unstuck with that. But actually now Performance Max takes care of a lot of that stuff. So like, more data is good, and get out of the way and allow the AI to do what you've asked it to do. The more you clip its wings and restrict it, it might seem clever, but actually you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot.
So I want to ask you one more question on this, because something I've had a frustration with Performance Max before was that if you haven't got much conversion data, like you aren't getting that many conversions, it just doesn't. It's not getting traction, basically.
Yeah.
So, and do you think that by plugging it into your CRM makes a difference with that? Does it can see all your previous conversions, or is it, if they're not going to work for low volume stuff?
It depends. It all depends how you've got it set up. I've got it working with relatively low volume stuff. So I'm working on campaigns where, I don't know, we might get 10 to 20 conversions a day. That's fairly low levels of traffic. What you can do though is you can broaden the time scale. You know, you can go up to 180 days, can't you? So that actually builds up to quite a sizable audience, if you like. And you've also always got the option of lookalike audiences to broaden these things out as well. You know, it gets complicated, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah. But there certainly are ways of doing it. What we, with the one example particularly that I'm thinking of, they, as an organisation, grade their customers by the amount of money that they're looking to spend, and actually they, for the purpose, because they've got very low volumes of things, for the purposes of this experiment, what they did was they said, well, look, if they're worth below this value, then we'll kind of actively exclude them from the campaigns. Okay. But if they're worth more than this value, so as an organization, they break people down into 6 or 7 different silos, right? But actually that wouldn't necessarily work. So they've kept it simple to begin with, and that's working well. But the more you get into this, the more you want to push it that little bit further, and see, you know, how hard can we get it to work. And you know, the thing to do is to work with your Google Account Manager. Everybody has one, and you know, make use of them. You know, ask them best ways to approach this, because they'll have a better understanding of how you've got your campaigns set up. I think that's the thing with this. There's so many different little levels that you can set and tweak that there's no kind of one rule for everybody. But I've certainly seen you definitely can make it work, and you know, there's just improved results off the back of it. Once you do get it working, it's well worth the effort of experimenting and trying it. You know, it's that whole adage, isn't it, of the man that goes to the doctor poking himself repeatedly in the eye, and it says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." And the doctor says, well, just don't do it then. And that's the thing. Like, you know, it's very easy to complain and moan, but actually maybe you need to try doing something a bit of a different way to find a better way of doing it.
That's a very good point to kind of move us on, because I think we're going to split this over 2 episodes because we've got so much stuff to go through. But I just wanted to go through one more thing for this episode, which was one of the big keynotes is always Inbound. Dharmesh was one of the co-founders, and he was the CTO, the Chief Technical Officer. So he is, he would say he's the geeky one. He's the slightly introverted one. His public speaking is actually, for someone that doesn't like public speaking, is excellent, because he drops loads of dad jokes in the whole way through. and they're excellent. They're really, really good.
You've got to love a dad joke.
Yeah, but he's come up with this thing called agent.ai. So I'd advise people to go and take a look at it. Basically, what he's saying is the future of work is going to be a hybrid workforce where you have got people, but you've also got AI agents. And AI agents, the difference between like an AI and an AI agent is just that an AI agent can go through a multi-step journey. So you can do a number of things in a kind of sequence, but then you can start putting these AI agents together. Like you can have numerous agents out there and you can put them together. This website, agent.ai, is an experiment, basically. But it's him and lots of other people building agents that you can go in and use. You get loads of free credits when you sign up, and they will do competitive analysis for you. Or they will generate images and put them into a document and generate a report of some description, things like that. So it's kind of like a custom GPT in that it's an AI created for a specific task. But the idea is that you can kind of sequence them together. Now, his feeling is that is going to be the future of all this kind of AI stuff, in that there'll be loads of different AI agents out there and you'll be able to sequence them together to do the particular tasks that you want. And we'll see this in lots of different places. But if you want to kind of see where this is going with all the AI stuff, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. I was a little bit at the beginning, oh, here we go, another AI thing. I'm not sure about this. Now I've played with it and sequenced a few of them. I managed to do a complete competitive analysis report for a particular industry using 3 or 4 of these agents together to do a bit of social listening, to go off and summarize their websites and all those kind of things. And it's kind of important because as we're fragmenting our user journeys, it's not just search, it's not just social media, it's not just email. To understand what's being said about your brand, as we saw with that HubSpot AI grader that we looked at in a previous episode, trying to understand your brand from a conversational point of view becomes important as well. I would take a look at it.
I love that the most used agent on that page is the website domain valuation expert.
There you go. How much is my website worth and can I flog it?
Yeah.
And I don't know how many domains I still own that I've got these broken dreams. And I get the domain renewals every year and go, no, I am going to renew it this year because I'm going to do something with it this year. I've heard those for quite a long time. I'm still owned beside the sea.com. Still one of my favorite.
Yeah. So, keep it. It's part of your personal brand.
It is. It's beautiful. Right. I think that's enough for today. We've got a ton more stuff to talk about in the next episode, but thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, targetinternet.com/newsletter, and get on there because that's where we're announcing all this new stuff that we're doing. We're launching an app in the very near future for exclusive podcasts and for the audio courses we're building. So if you enjoy the podcast, but you want to learn a complete subject, and we're starting with SEO and we're doing a certification, an accredited certification with that, that'll all be much easier to use via the apps. We've got that coming up. As I say, we've got those audio courses, so we'll notify you there. So get over to subscribe to the newsletter and join the thousands of other people that subscribe as well. Thank you for listening, and we'll speak to you again in the next episode with a continuation of these latest trends and AI updates. For more episodes, resources, to leave a review, or to get in contact, go to targetinternet.com/podcast.